name is Scota Kestera. I'm the concept designer. I was on Borderlands 1, Borderlands 2.
Today here you're showing Borderlands 2, so what's new in your game?
Well, there's a lot of things. A lot of what made Borderlands what it was the shooter side of it and the RPG side of it. So we really looked into those and tried to expand on all of that. We took the gun system. Well, the game was really about the guns. It was about the millions and millions of guns, right? So we looked at the guns, we tore them apart, we rebuilt all of those. It's sort of a similar system still, but we took those, we created a much more unique identities for each of the manufacturers. They do kind of, each of them has sort of different quirks about them, the way that they work and the way they shoot or the way they reload. That was a big thing for us, really making sure that felt right. All of the gear, environmentally, the landscape's much more diverse. The last game was kind of desert-like everywhere. So there's still some of that in there, but you've got this Arctic area, you've got this more kind of Scottish Highlands vibe, some other zones we're not talking about. The AI, we've made a lot of improvements to. The enemies react much better than they were. They act a little more believable. I mean, it's kind of, we looked at everything that we had from the UI to the way the vehicle's controlled to the actual character classes, and have just really tried to one up what we did the last time. So.
Today it's very hard to start a new franchise, to start new ID, but you did it. Borderlands was a good game, and now you come back with second part. So it starts to be a franchise now, not only one game. It is really the second. The game is really Borderlands 2, or maybe a Borderlands Plus, or bigger, better. But it is also really a new game.
When we did DLC, we really tried to take that to a higher quality bar than a lot of people did. We really wanted to make a lot of value in that content, and we feel the same way about the sequel of the game. We don't want, it's not just like changing some textures and adding a couple new enemies. We've really gone through with the enemy variety, the environment variety, the guns, all the gear and the loot. We really looked at those things, and we really wanted to make sure that it was worthy of another game. It's not necessarily, obviously it's a sequel, and it is hard to sort of compete, and there's a lot of really big heavy sequels these days. It's hard to stand out, but we kind of carved out our look with the role-playing aspect, with the shooter aspect, and just with the style of the game and the graphics. So that was one of the things that made us sort of stand out, and thankfully people responded to that well. And to those people, we're giving them more of what they loved about the first game, but we're hoping that it also appeals to some of the people that maybe didn't try the first one. So after the acclaim that has come from it, thankfully, thanks to everybody that picked it up. So
you say it for yourself that first part was all about guns. Yeah. There was a lot of guns. There's also a lot about looting, a lot about killing, shooting, yeah. But not so a lot about story in the game. It was really not so important in Borderlands first part. Something changed now?
Yeah. Story is another one of the. That's why it's sort of hard when people ask me what's better about this one. I'm like, well, story is another one of those things. We really let the story not invade the first game, and we still feel strongly about that, but we don't want you watching cutscenes. But all of the mission structure has been built. The system is easier to deliver things, and we're telling a lot more of the story through the mission, so you're experiencing the story a lot more. It's not just a fetch quest from go here to there. It's like what you're being fed is actually propelling what's happening, but we want to do it in a way that you're always playing the game, that you're not just stopping to watch things. So we're really making a conscious effort to make sure that the story, you know, from a single, if you're playing the game single player, that you're intrigued by what's going on, and if you're playing multiplayer, it's still, like, you know, just as fun, but we're really looking out for both sides of that. So
do you give something new to make players cooperate, to make players work better together?
Yeah, co-op is, like I said, we really care about the single player experience, but the co-op experience is kind of where I think a lot of people have really found a home in, and that's really important to us. And from supporting, you know, the 4-player co-op side, and even going with a 2-player split screen, like right now we supported that, and a lot of people were really happy about that, and we're going a little step further with this one, so you can now play 2-player split screen but still get online and play with other people, so you can both play on the same console. And we're doing a lot of overhauls to the UI to help support that a little bit better, so that works is a lot more usable from that extent. So, and just interactions with eligibility and some quests here and there. If you joined a quest where somebody was at, there was sometimes issues, and we're really trying to smooth those things out, so that integration, you can still pop in and pop out whenever, and we're just really trying to make that as easy for people to play the game as possible.
Where are the heroes from first part of the game?
Yeah, well,
people love them.
Yeah, that was another risk. We just sort of do that with the series, I guess. So all those characters are actually still they're non-player, they're NPCs. They're NPCs in this game. So we thought it was one of those things, like we really wanted to try to give people a new experience with this, so all the new characters are new. We're not talking about all of them right now. What Salvador, the Gunzerker who we're showing with the dual wielding ability, is kind of it's kind of extension of the Berserker with Brick, as he's punching, but this guy can dual wield any 2 guns in the entire game, which is, when you think about Borderlands and you think about that, it's pretty interesting. So the idea of using those old characters as support for the new ones, like you interact with them and you get a little more about who they are, and people are familiar with them, and it kind of expands the world and creates a little more there's a little more just thick. It's a little more thick. It's dense, the interactions between those people. So
you and I, the reward for your death is second only to mine. That alone should be reason for you to join my cause. But if it is not, and your greed precedes you, their invasion stockpile will be yours.
Could you say something about the skill system? Because in the first game you got one skill for one hero, and it didn't change a game a lot. You know, it was stronger when you get better levels, but it was always the same.
Yeah, I mean, it's similar, and it's like each character does have an action skill that's uniquely theirs, but this time the skill trees themselves add a lot more different. There's a lot more variety of what's going to happen with those, like as you choose which trees you want to go down. So it might still, for instance, and they're not always just related to the action skill. There's a lot of passive skills. There's just a lot of different builds that you could do in this, more so than the last game, and the way that they're created is really to take into account the new gear that you can get and the ways that those balance off of anybody that you're playing with their different characters. So there'll be a lot more diversity in how you can use your skills, but also what those passive skills are that aren't.
Oh, hi! Didn't see you there. You probably know that a game like Borderlands doesn't just make itself. As a matter of fact, it's the combined effort of many talented individuals. Oh, hey, Steve. How are the kids? As you've no doubt seen, we're doing something very different than your average action shooter here with... Seriously? Your arm's tired? I played the Duke of Buckingham and Richard III with Ian McKellen, ass. This is Bush League.
Borderlands was a crazy game. There was a lot of crazy stuff. Borderlands 2 is the same. It's also so crazy as first part.
Yeah. And that's something that we look at. Like, another thing that we don't take ourselves too seriously. We're a serious game to an extent, and then just silly things happen, like the Nomad who's walking around with a shield, but he's got a midget strapped to it, it's kind of one of those things, like, we want to keep the players entertained, and we want you to be like, man, what are they going to do next? And we're always sort of striving to kind of deliver a new, like, well, what? I can't believe that I just saw that. If it's silly dialogue or if it's an event happening. So it's definitely one of the core values of Borderlands. Is it's a little over the top. It's a little, it's funny, but it's also, it's kind of a it's serious in tone. It's kind of like how dark the humor is kind of one of those things that I think kind of separates us, and we're just kind of silly like that. So.